It's 2018, and can you believe it? A brand new Sony Walkman. So what I have here is the Sony NW-A45, which probably doesn't tell you a lot about this product if you haven't heard of it. If you have heard of it, well then it's probably all you need to know, but just in case. This is a high-resolution audio player, right? Imagine, kind of like a really high-end iPod in a day and age when nobody has iPods anymore because everyone's got smartphones, right? I only kind of recently became aware of this as a product category. Like most people, I've been listening to music on my phone like a schmuck apparently, because there is a thing called high-res audio. I got a pair of headphones earlier this year that support high-res audio, and I'd never heard of high-res audio before. So when I found out that Sony was still making Walkmans and that there was this new NW-A45 model that had just come out, I was interested to check it out, see what this is all about. So first things first, let's crack it open and see what's inside this box. Now there's not very much in this box. Maybe surprising, maybe not. Essentially what's in this box is the Walkman unit itself, as well as a cable, which in this case is actually a proprietary cable. You can see it's got USB on one end, and then it's got this unique WM port, or I'm not sure exactly what that port is, but that's what you get on the bottom of this unit. It's not USB to USB. And then of course you've got instructions, which I don't have time for. And there it is. There is the Sony A45, NW-A45. It's a bunch of letters. I'm not sure who names these electronic products, but they all seem to have this same problem, and that their names don't mean anything. Walkman, now it's a cool name. Initial impressions in the hand, it is, it's got a little weight to it. It's definitely not heavy, but it's not lightweight. Like, it doesn't feel like it's made out of lightweight, cheap plastic. If I'm kind of feeling around the outside, okay, the back of it does feel like plastic. The sides of it here and the front of it, this all feels like it's probably one solid piece of a lightweight aluminum. So that's a nice feeling on the outside. On the front, it is just screen. There are no buttons on the front. On the side, you've got a micro SD port, which is great because this has only got 16 gigabytes of built-in memory. If you're dealing with lossless audio, your files are going to be pretty large, so 16 gigabytes is not going to let you store much. So you can see I've got the pale gold color, which, to be honest, wasn't my first choice. I kind of like just the plain black color or charcoal or whatever, however they describe the color. But this pale gold color was the only one that was available at the time of purchase, and I'm not typically into blingy stuff. I've never owned a gold iPhone, but this is, I think, a pretty good look. It's it's a pale gold, which is nice. It's a little understated, and you can see here on the side we've got your buttons. You've got a power on and off, volume up and down. You've got basic playback, skip forward, skip backward, and then you've got a hold triggers just so that you can lock the functions of this device. If you put it in your pocket, you don't want to accidentally hit pause, play, or whatever, so you hit that hold button. Let's go ahead and power it on, and let's see my first impressions of the operating system. For music lovers. Doing a little touchscreen manipulation here, huh? Now this touchscreen is not the best, but also not the worst. That is a whole mess of UI. Yikes. So now I'm going to go ahead and try and put some music on this, and I'm going to do a little bit of back-to-back listening with the same songs played on my laptop through the same headphones. I'm using Audio-Technica SR5 BTs for this test. I don't know how much difference I'm expecting to hear. I don't know if I've got the kind of ear that an audiophile has, where they're going to notice, the difference between typical MP3 compression versus lossless FLAC files played over high-res headphones. I don't know. We're going to find out. All right, so I've just done a little bit of head-to-head listening with the A45 against my MacBook as well as against my iPhone 6, just because I figured maybe this is actually probably a little bit better of a comparison. You know, I kind of went into this expecting not really being able to tell much of a difference. And to be honest, I kind of got what I expected. Now, there actually are a couple different parts in the songs that I was listening to where, you know, I was listening to a little bit of Feist, the album Metals. And in that song, or in that album, there's a couple songs where, you know, she hits really high notes, or there's just a lot of like nuance in the audio, or where, you know, it might get a little bit muddy, or it might sound like it's peaking a little bit. And when listened to on this, it felt a lot more effortless. When I get to those parts of the songs on my computer or on my phone, you know, there's a little bit of hesitance on my part. I'm like, I hope this song doesn't, you know, I hope the audio doesn't crackle or peak. On the A45, it's just effortless. It just goes right through it. So in there is definitely some benefit. You know, and then even just kind of globally, there is a slight improvement in the audio quality that I can tell. You know, for a person like me, does this sort of thing make sense? And I think it can. If you like to listen to music a lot, I think it does make sense to have something like this. It reminds me a lot of a Sansa clip audio player that I had, which is a really tiny little MP3 player that I love to bits, just because the music that came out of it was just a little bit something special. It just sounded a little bit nicer than it did from other sources, and this is kind of does the same thing. So, you know, if I'm going to listen to music, I'm going to want to listen to it on this device. You know, it's probably not as convenient as having music on my computer or on my phone. But if I ever do want to make sure that I'm getting the ultimate audio experience, at least I've got this. Now, a couple of notes on using this thing. One thing was that I did not notice any audio level difference between this and my iPhone 6 or my MacBook. They're all with the volume set to max, essentially the same exact volume. I kind of expected that this might have a little bit higher output because I know some headphones, you know, require higher output. But I didn't notice any difference between them. The interface on this thing is not bad, although you got to make sure that your music is really, really well tagged in terms of like ID3 tags and stuff like that, because, well, like most MP3 players, it uses those ID3 tags to organize your files, but it does it in a little bit of a sloppy way. So here, I'll show you. So I have a few different artists on this player so far, right? And if I go to the Artists tab, I see that this one hip-hop album that I've got is showing up as a dozen different artists. That's a little frustrating. You know, if I go to the album view, it does just show up as one album, so I guess that's nice. But if I wanted to browse by artist, that's already kind of a mess on this thing. You know, the user interface is about as good as I could expect for a homegrown user interface like this from a company like Sony. I've been spoiled a lot by great interfaces on smartphones over the past 10 years or so, so this is definitely not smartphone quality interface, but it's not bad also. Not quite as clever as the iPod, the original iPod, if you remember that thing, but it's perfectly functional. The touchscreen is pretty responsive. The refresh rate is not nearly as fast as you would expect on a modern smartphone, but that's not really what you're here for. You're here for music, and it does that. If I were to review this now, and I have to, as superficial as it is, that's what this channel is all about. We're all about superficial reviews here. If I were to review the Sony NW-A45 at this point, I would have to give it, can I do half stars? I think I'd give it like a 3.5 stars. You know what? I'll go ahead and give it 4 stars. I'll give it 4 stars because, you know, the build quality is pretty nice. It feels really nice in the hands. It's got a nice weight to it. The back being plastic is a little bit of a letdown considering the rest of it is this nice gold metallic color. The buttons all function pretty well. The only letdown really is the software on this thing. It is not terrible software by any stretch, but it's just also not great software. The interface, the user interface, you know, it's already kind of bungled up my software library, and I've only got like 4 albums on it right now. And it's already not doing that great, so, you know, that's kind of a bummer, but the hardware's great, the audio quality is great, and I love that when I plugged it into my computer, it just showed up as an external hard drive or an external disk drive so that I could just drag and drop music onto it I didn't have to install any Sony software just to put music on this thing, and that's great. So that is the Sony Walkman NW-A45, which is still a mouthful. But if you're interested in checking it out, you can check it out on Amazon. I got a link down below. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next super review.